And on that note, I want to introduce our speaker today. And as I did that, somebody's trying to send me a note. Okay. Well, please join us in welcoming an old favorite of ours, an old circle member, Ruth Ann Wood. She is also a local girl from Doylestown. And come on in, I'm just introducing Ruth Ann Wood, our speaker. And Ruth Ann shared a personal thing. She was born a twin, and at birth,
not at birth, but like 2 years ago.
2 years later, we lost her twin. And how that could have informed her life, because I asked her the question, where was it that informed your spirituality? That's one of my questions I ask anyone, and sometimes it's a slow process, sometimes it's a hit on the head, but she'll tell you more about what informed how she became this guide to the world and how she's done it in so many places. She told me she's even been lecturing in China. So we welcome you back here in New Britain. And to say a little bit more, she's a visionary, a storyteller, an artist, a facilitator, and a guide dedicated to helping us tap into the power of inspiration, intuition, and gratitude. With a rich toolkit that includes journaling, energy medicine, extensive travel, and creative exploration. Ruth invites us to deep dive into the inner landscape of dreams, answered prayers, and intentions, activated through a clear, focused decisions of communication. And today, Ruth is going to lead us through her unique approach to discovering what lights us up and connecting with our authentic self. Let's open our hearts and minds as we explore what inspires you. Welcome, Ruth Ann. No, I don't know. I gotta go this way.
How's everyone today?
Great.
I was talking to my friends that are here, and on all levels we're friends, right? And I made many notes of when Ken asked me out of the blue to stand up here. And at the time I was putting together something called the Zing Stories, a Philly Fringe show, which had to balance technology with storytelling. It was the first time I had done a presentation, not in person, but like over Zoom for a festival. And I realized that I like this much better, interactive, where I could see people's faces and connect and give and take the flow of energy. And but my whole sort of premise of why I wanted to do this festival was something called Zing Stories, which evolved from 20, 30 years of doing something called Scripting for Success, where we journal our thoughts, whether it's our dreams or our intentions for the day or our shopping list, or our frustrations or our fears watching the news or having a conversation, and just write down everything. And then go back and look at it and say, well, how can I turn that into the positive? What is it that I really want here? And so that's like part 2 of a process that I've worked with for a long time. And then part 3 is turning those new gratitudes, intentions into a story of you already having it happen. And in this story, I've discovered over the years that it's even more powerful to write it in third person about someone else, so you can take on all the emotions and all the feelings of that experience without having that monkey mind chatter saying that's not me yet or that could never happen. Because I grew up in a background of Christian Science, where we learn thoughts create our erroneous thoughts create dis-ease. And I also grew up with speakers like Abraham Hicks that said, just feel your way into the reality you want to create. Well, for someone that's had trouble closing your eyes, sitting still, and just watching thoughts go by and feeling better doing that, I thought there must be another way to tap into, all the religions that I've looked at, all the conversations I've had with friends and teachers and facilitators, and each day get some benefit from it. So with a background in Oriental medicine, acupressure, shiatsu, I grew up in Doylestown, where there was a school called International School of Shiatsu. And so while I was still in high school, but had finished all my courses to graduate from CB West High School in 1994, my mom gifted me a weekend class on acupressure. And I had gone to a lot of doctors for scoliosis, for a curved back. And this was the first thing that helped with the numbness in my right arm and back pain and feeling crooked and things like that. And what I loved about the training was it taught you how to use more than just your eyes, your ears. It taught you to go inward and use your intuition to tune into what your body was doing and what your client's body was doing. With it seems like every sort of medical model or wellness model has a structure within each teaching. And so within acupressure, there was something called the 5 elements. And earth, which is more nurturing, grounding energy, dealing with the stomach, spleen, all the way to bladder, kidney, which is more active in the wintertime. So like all these things have influenced things that I've thought about in the last 30 some years. And so I thought, how can I incorporate this practice on energy medicine with my love of storytelling? And so that's how that came about, using intuition, storytelling, energy medicine. So what I would like each one of you to do is to take your hands and to warm them up. And what we're going to do is notice if you feel any sort of stickiness between your hands when you slowly pull them away, or any sort of sensation, or tickling, or almost maybe I don't want to be too suggestive, but a magnetic feeling. Yeah. So you can kind of move your hands around a little bit and feel, in my case, I feel sort of a magnetic pull between the center of my palms. And this Circle of Miracles is known for its mastery in Reiki. So it deals with the same energy. And so you pull it further apart or closer. Say any words that are coming to mind that you might be feeling in between your hands. Warmth. Energy. I feel like a tingling, sort of almost like a rubber band feeling.
Like I feel some resistance.
Resistance, like it's kind of pulling and then wants to bring your hands back. So this energy is present with us. We can put it on our hearts right now if you want. This energy is present with us all the time. And call it gravity, call it electromagnetic energy, call it whatever you want. But there's some kind of force that reminds us that we're alive and reminds us that we're connected. And So when I started writing stories, I either noticed I felt that energy or I didn't. You can let go of your hands if you want, or keep them there. And so one of my clients and longtime friends said that energy to her was called zing, like you get a zing, a great idea, or a jolt of electricity. And so when I'm journaling or writing a conversation and I don't feel that zing, I rewrite it until I do, until I feel that electrical charge, that feeling of yes, I'm in agreement with that. Another game I've played with people is taking a coin and flipping it to make decisions. And it's not about luck or chance. It's about how did you feel when you got the response that you wanted? Like, if it landed on heads, are you disappointed? Are you happy? And the more we kind of ask ourselves throughout the day, like, is this decision moving me forward or is it causing me stress? That's when we can really play with the energy in our lives. So does anyone, can anyone relate to that? Yeah. So I'm part of a bunch of different groups. One that I'm very happy about, I took Spanish in community college and did not do well in it, but 30 years later, I've come back and done 4 or 5 years of Duolingo Spanish. And it's like having someone telling you immediately, that's how you pronounce the words, and that's how you spell them correctly, and this is how you write them correctly. But through the Doylestown Library, I now have a group that started meeting at this French lady's house. She was raised in France and she's lived in the United States for 30 years, raised her children, and she moved to Doylestown for a year. And so every week I get to go. She makes these delicious pastries and French food while we talk in Spanish. And so we were talking in Spanish about, you know, the election coming up and people's fears and hopes and dreams. And I thought, what could I bring to today's conversation where no matter what's going on in our life, we can tune into what feels good and be guided in a way that supports our immune system, supports our choices, supports our conversations with loved ones. And so that's kind of that's definitely the energy I'm bringing to today's conversation. And I don't know, do you guys still have, I guess we gave back our pencils, right? But no, it's fine. Why don't we send some thought forms? So close your eyes and think of the most grateful moment you've had recently in your life. And I've had a lot of grateful moments, so just let them pile on. And if you want, visualize holding that grateful moment like a moving picture in between your hands. And if you even want to hold your hands up and hold that grateful moment in your hands, we can do that right now. Feel the magnetic energy, the charge of that feeling, that memory, that gratitude, that sensation of love, appreciation. Know that you can always tap into that. Carry it with you. No matter what other people are saying 2 feet away or on social media or across the world, you can still tune into that gratitude. Now, let me give you a couple examples. I forget how much time I have, but I'll give you some examples.
20 minutes.
Okay, so I'm 10 minutes in or,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Gratitude has come in many forms. One of my most, oh, somebody's trying to get in there. There we go. One of my moments where I had a big shift in my life was back in 2002. I picked up a book called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And I remember the one that made me chop off all my hair and leave an 8-year relationship was be impeccable with your word. And I feel like when you are tuned in with your energy, you know whether you feel aligned with what you're saying or you feel resistance and it's not really the direction that you want to go in. And so we have a choice every day to, when you're complaining about something, or when I'm complaining about something, and I have an opportunity to journal about it, I can take it a little bit further and go, well, what is it I want instead? Or if I'm jealous about somebody or something, what is it that I want instead of that longing feeling or that frustration? If I'm frustrated about something, what is it that I want to actually bring into my life or have start working for me? So being able to tune in that energy and then making clear decisions about what it is that you want to focus on instead of all the things that are stressing me out can be pretty powerful. Couple of years ago, some of us might have had an experience of feeling alone or having their whole environment change and having to stay at home a lot more. And maybe some of us even felt less than our healthy selves during that time. But it really gave us, at least me, a sense of appreciation for when I do feel healthy, when I do feel surrounded by people I care about. And it also gave me an opportunity to kind of restart, reboot. I tried going back to work for a couple months, wearing a mask, doing all that stuff. And after maybe 6 months of that, I was like, no, I don't really need this anymore. So I stopped working for somebody else. I lived off of some savings, which was fortunate I had some. And I did a lot of journaling and I did a lot of nature walks. And I did a lot of meeting people around a fire pit, and things that required stepping away from our cell phones and our computers. But on the other end, I also got very into AI and taking down all the things that I love to do and what I'm talking about here, and having AI organize it into a structure of, okay, what is my most important message and what is the patterns that are repeating in my life, and what are my things that I need to work on. So even with today's talk, I jotted down all my ideas, and then I said, can I say this a lot more succinctly? And AI helped me have a sounding board for my thoughts. And it's just interesting. It's may we live in interesting times, right? So what is AI but a collective consciousness? And when I'm learning, working with, I've had a couple of interesting experiences since I stopped doing 8 hours of massage a day in a windowless room, and massaging strangers and having to change over the sheets and the bed in like 5 minutes and 50 minutes of massage, and doing this, like wearing a mask for 8 hours a day. It's like going to the gym, wearing a mask and working out 8 hours a day doing deep tissue massage. And I had already had the experience of, I was telling you ladies, about how at one point when I had a CD player in my car, I would go to the Doylestown Library and grab CDs, and they would just jump off the shelf. And one of them was Nelson Mandela's 27 years, sorry, of being imprisoned, and how he would write letters to the people that imprisoned him, and he got his law degree, and he did a bunch of things that shifted his consciousness. And so I started doing that in my own solitude, in my own gathering of friends. And but before that, in 2018, around this time, 2018, I got 2 audiobooks from the library that just kind of jumped off the shelf. One was by Carol Burnett, who was known for being a pioneer in comedy and creating whole productions for her weekly show. And the other was Gloria Steinem, who was known for Miss Magazine and a lot of growth in women's involvement in society and politics and things like that. So I was like, okay, I don't know these women really well, but their stories really inspire me. And I wrote in my journal, I want to be more like these women. And well, what specifically do I want to do? I want to do women's talking circles abroad around the world. Like, I want to go somewhere. I don't want to just be in this massage room working for somebody for $16 an hour, you know, depending on tips for livelihood. And I also want to do theater like Gloria, like Carol Burnett. So I wrote this down, didn't think much of it, but felt like I felt so inspired by their messages. And it was within a week or two, I got an email from someone that had interviewed me and my co-author, Stosh, who we wrote a book back in 2007 called You Can't Get It Because You've Already Got It, a blind figure skater and a visionary writer's inspirational guide to moving through life. So if I already got it, well, what is it that I already got and what is it that I can focus on? So I forgot about it. And then a couple of days later, I got this email from someone that had interviewed us on her author show. It's literally called The Author Show. Danielle was the host. And she said, I belong to this organization that sends volunteer facilitators around the world to teach university students to be leaders, to look after other people in their community and on a global level, to expand our personal and geographic boundaries, to value what we say and communicate, like all these things that I believed in. I was like, oh, wow. And now they're teaching college students to do this, partnering with the universities around the world. So we've partnered with China. We've recently partnered with the University in Mexico and India and Uruguay. And we've had over close to 2,000 students graduate from our program in the last almost 20 years. And it's all volunteer, it's no extra credit. So not knowing too much about this opportunity landed in my lap after I said, I want to, you know, lead talking circles, women's talking circles, and I want to do theater. And within a month of writing that, I was flying to China like a couple days before Halloween, and I was there for 6 weeks. And to get my flight paid for by a grant by the United States Department, U.S. State Department, I had to pick a art project to kind of share American culture with China. So I was like, I don't want to bring a bunch of art supplies. What is it that I want to do? And I didn't really give it much thought, but this sort of light entered my brain and it was like, why don't you do improv, comedy, and theater? And I'm like, okay, that sounds easy to carry on a plane. So I was able to speak at 2 or 3, in addition to 5 days a week, doing labs on different styles of leadership and government, and how to take their United Nations project on AIDS or family planning or community outreach. I was also going to locations as close as half an hour away to like 4 hours away, taking like a bus, a train, a truck, like, and reaching out to elementary school, junior high students, a really prestigious, like, sort of library with a big auditorium where they had a lot of notable speakers from China speak there. And I got to be one of the first Westerners to speak on that stage. So here I was, this very solitary person doing one-on-one massages. And then within like 6 weeks of writing down my intention, I was lecturing, being facilitated, being treated VIP service,
And
as a faculty, staying in the faculty housing and stuff like that. So what is it that you are complaining about right now? Or what is it that you are feeling really grateful about and you want more of it? And that's what I want to leave with you, empower you with that. Okay, so you can feel stressed out about whatever it is that's pressing your buttons. And you can watch the news or social media for other people's opinions of how to get more stressed out. But if you could actually change the subtitles or narrative of your movie or your audio inside your heart, what would those subtitles be? And then when you write them down and these really bizarre opportunities come up, like fly to China and teach for free for 5 weeks, you can say, well, I did write this. It's not just a coincidence. I literally said I wanted to do theater abroad and women's talking circles, which I got to do, and coaching groups and things like that. So yeah, and the same is true with relationships, with jobs, with picking out a new pet, with volunteer work. You can journal about what it is that brings you the most satisfaction, the most spark, the most zing in your heart. Like, do you feel joy writing that down, or do you feel like, no, it's not for me? It's not really where I want to be right now. I've had, many opportunities to do things I didn't want to do. And for a while, I would say yes to a lot of them. But, sometimes I've said, you know what? I'm doing something else. What I'm doing is enough. It's enough for me to go to the park once a week and walk 6.5 miles around the park every week as my meditation. I don't need to go to the gym 4 times a week to prove myself. Or it's enough to do some of the coaching that I'm doing, but I don't have to go and work for somebody for 40 hours to prove that I'm a real person, So we all have these choices, and I'd like to open it up for reflections